Her child burned with fever, his little body trembling against her chest, while her own feet, bare and bleeding, pressed into the blistering pavement. She carried him mile after mile, the sun scorching above, the gravel slicing below. Every step was pain, yet she pressed forward, because the only thing more unbearable than her suffering was the thought of losing him. I wasn't even supposed to be there that day. I had stopped outside a crumbling bus station, a place where people rarely lingered. It smelled of exhaust fumes and old dust, a crossroads where the world seemed to rush forward without ever looking back. That's when I saw her. A mother, skin damp with sweat, cradling her son so tightly it was as though her embrace alone could keep him alive. His head lolled weakly against her shoulder, lips pale, eyes half closed, and his tiny chest struggled to rise. But what seared itself into me, what stopped me mid-stride, were her feet torn and unprotected against the cruel heat of the ground. She lowered herself onto the station steps, whispering to the boy, "Just hold on, baby." Her voice was soft, almost a prayer. But around her, life went on. The crowd swirled, eyes sliding away, people pretending not to notice. I could see the discomfort on their faces, that quick flicker of recognition followed by a deliberate turn of the head. The silence was louder than any words. Shame rose in my chest. Why was no one moving? Why was no one helping? And why? Was I still standing frozen? Then the boy coughed. A weak, rattling sob that echoed against the concrete walls. That sound cut through the bus station like glass. It was impossible not to hear. It was impossible to ignore. And yet still, many turned away. My hands clenched. Would anyone step forward? The mother lifted her head slightly, her voice breaking as she asked a vendor nearby. "Water. Please, just a little." But the man shook his head, muttering, "Not my problem," before turning his back. Another passerby scoffed under his breath, walking faster. She bowed her head lower, as if bracing herself for rejection she already knew was coming. I took a step closer, ready to speak, but before I could, an older woman shuffled forward. Her hands trembled as she removed a scarf from her neck, dipping it into a cracked plastic bottle she carried. She gently pressed the damp fabric against the child's forehead. "This will cool him just a little," she whispered. Her voice was tired, but her eyes held fire. A second later, a teenage boy approached, hesitating before offering a half loaf of bread he'd been chewing on. The mother blinked, speechless, clutching her son closer while balancing the bread on her knee. Small gestures, maybe, but something had begun. A chain reaction had started because one act of kindness sparks another. Kindness nugget number 1, research shows. Kindness is contagious when one person helps. Others nearby are 3 times more likely to join, and yet even as help trickled in, my eyes kept going back to her feet. The skin cracked, swollen, streaked with dust and blood. That image her sacrifice silent and visible would not leave. Me? Later I would learn why. She hadn't lost her shoes. She had sold them. Sold them 2 nights before, along with the few belongings she had left, just to afford medicine for her son. But even then, the money hadn't been enough. The pharmacist turned her away, unmoved by her desperate plea. And so she walked barefoot, carrying him on her shoulders, because the only choice she had was to keep moving. Her decision wasn't an accident, it was a hidden bargain with life. Her pain wasn't just physical. It was the price of love now. As the minutes passed, the boy's breathing grew shallower. His little chest fluttered, then stilled, then fluttered again. She rocked him, whispering, "Please, not now, not here." The crack in her voice made my own throat tighten. Around us, people shifted uncomfortably, whispering, shaking their heads. Some looked guilty, others looked away. But I couldn't. I couldn't move. I couldn't pretend not to see life, dignity, survival. Everything teetered on that hot concrete. Step. And I realized something simple, but piercing. Kindness, nugget. #2. Psychologists found that simply noticing suffering is the first step to reducing it. Awareness awakens courage. That was the moment I made my choice. Quietly, almost ashamed of how long I had hesitated, I slipped away down the street. Not to run, but to return with something she needed more than bread or water. Shoes, not just protection, but dignity. When I came back, I carried my own perlaces. Frayed, soles worn, but intact. Without a word, I placed them gently on the step beside her. She looked up, eyes wide, lips trembling, but no words came. Only tears. What I didn't expect was what happened next. It's another man, watching suddenly. Straightened. He crossed the street to a shop and returned with new sandals. He set them down too. A woman followed with socks, then a bag of rice, then bottled water, then medicine. Within an hour, she was no longer alone. Round her, an island of hope had formed. Bags of food, folded clothes, envelopes slipped discreetly into her lap. The very vendor who once turned her away now placed fruit at her feet, his hands shaking. It wasn't charity. It was humanity rediscovered, and all it took was one. A small step. The boy stirred. His eyes flickered open, catching the late afternoon glow. A soft gasp spread across the crowd. The mother pressed her forehead to his, whispering, "We're saved." Her tears fell onto his cheeks as he blinked weakly, but alive. The hush that followed was electric. Strangers leaned closer, smiling through tears, wiping their own eyes. In that fragile moment, a street full of disconnected lives became a family. Kindness nugget number 3. Studies show that when people witness kindness, their stress hormones drop and healing, both physical and emotional, begins to accelerate. The boy wasn't just surviving. He was teaching us, me, the crowd, the world, that kindness is not decoration. It is survival. Days later, I heard news that she had found steady work, a roof over her son's head, food on their table, not because one person rescued her, but because many strangers linked arms in spirit and lifted her together. The lesson I carried? Sometimes the smallest act a pair of shoes can become the bridge between despair and survival, between invisibility and hope. Before she left that bus station for the last time, she found something tucked inside the new sandals, a folded note written in careful script. One day, help another barefoot soul. She pressed it to her chest, nodded silently, and walked away, not just with shoes, but with a mission. And if you're listening right now, I want you to do something simple. Screenshot this truth and send it to someone who needs it. Kindness begins the moment you refuse to look away, because you never know. One gesture might spark a movement, and next week. Wait until you hear the story of a forgotten child whose song silenced an entire city.